Hi guys, how's it going? Welcome to the fourth video of the Redux series. Thank you for making it this far into the series. Today's video won't be a programming tutorial, rather a short discussion on when and when not to use Redux. So from the previous videos in this series, you can kind of see the benefits of using Redux in your application. As previously mentioned, Redux makes it easy to share and retrieve states by using a single source of truth, which all components in your application can access without having to pass props around. But this doesn't necessarily mean that you'll need Redux for every project that you work on. Firstly, let's get into when you should be using Redux. So looking at this diagram here, this illustrates the data flow in a typical React application. You have parent components that pass states down as props to child components, and to update the state from the child component, you'd have a callback function passed down as well. But if we were to take a look at these two components E and F, they are completely unrelated components and have different parent components. So if I wanted component E to access a state in component F, it would be impossible to do so. If this type of relationship is something you need implemented in your application, then Redux is definitely a great option to go with. Another great benefit of using Redux is that it makes it easier to maintain your application. For example, let's take a look at the more complex data flow. Looking at this example here, if I wanted to pass down a state from this main component here all the way down to this child component, I would have to pass down several props, and the more child components I have to pass to, the more complicated things get. And you can imagine all the callback functions. This would just be a complete mess. So instead of doing all of that, rather go ahead and install Redux to help with all of that. Now, the number one reason not to use Redux in your application that I've seen out there is if you're simply getting started with the front-end framework like React, you don't really need to get into all the other stuff like Redux, Next.js or Gatsby.js without really understanding the fundamentals of the framework. And this is similar to learning or understanding the fundamentals of a programming language like JavaScript before even learning any framework like React. Another reason you might not need Redux in your application is because you have other avenues of sharing or storing data, like using local storage. Now, going back to the diagram here, if I wanted all my components to have access to the same persistent data, I could simply store it in my local storage. The only difference here is that I wouldn't be able to listen for any changes. But there might be some cases where you simply need to store persistent data and you don't really need Redux for that. And that's it for today, guys. Be sure to check out these two articles that provide a further discussion on the matter. Cheers for now.